All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going to dim the lights a little bit and explore one of the most beautiful, most atmospheric forms in all of music, the nocturne.
But before we get into the nitty-gritty, I've got a question for you. Just think about it for a second. What does nighttime sound like? I mean, really sound like? Is it totally silent? Is it peaceful? Maybe a little mysterious? You know, for centuries, composers have been obsessed with trying to answer that exact question with music.
And, well, one of the most famous answers they came up with is the nocturne. The name, it's pretty straightforward, right? It comes from the same root as nocturnal, and it means exactly what you think it does, a piece of music inspired by or evocative of the night. Think of it like a painting of the night, but with sound instead of paint.
Okay, so let's get into the good stuff. What actually goes into a nocturne? What are the key ingredients that give it that special, nighttime vibe? What's the secret recipe here?
So a good nocturne has a few key ingredients for sure. First up, you've got this beautiful, really song-like melody. It's usually played by the right hand, and it's almost like a solo voice telling a story in the dark. Then underneath all that, the left hand provides this flowing, gentle accompaniment. It's like a soft, steady heartbeat. The mood? Well, it's got to be dreamy, thoughtful, maybe even a little bit sad or melancholic. To really ramp up the emotion, composers use something called rubato, which basically just means they stretch the time a little, speeding up and slowing down to really pull at your heartstrings. And almost always, this is music for solo piano. That's what gives it that really intimate, personal feeling.
So where did this whole amazing idea even come from? Well, for that, we have to meet the pioneer, the guy who literally invented the form, an Irish composer you might not have heard of named John Field.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. When you hear the word nocturne, another composer's name probably pops into your head, right? But believe it or not, the whole form was actually created by this guy, John Field. He was the very first person to call these kinds of piano pieces nocturnes. He wrote 18 of them, and in doing so, he basically laid the groundwork and set the style for every single composer who came after him.
And this right here, this was Field's blueprint. It was so elegant and honestly revolutionary in its simplicity. You have this gorgeous melody just floating on top of a gentle rolling accompaniment. That word arpeggiated just means the notes of a chord are played one after the other instead of all at once, which creates that beautiful, flowing, almost watery sound. It was just the perfect canvas for painting a picture of the night.
Okay, so if John Field was the pioneer who drew up the blueprint, then our next composer, well, he's the master who came along and built an absolute palace on that foundation. I'm talking, of course, about the Polish genius, Frédéric Chopin.
So Chopin hears what Field is doing, and he is just completely captivated by it. He takes that blueprint we talked about and just elevates it to a whole other level. I mean, a whole new level. He ended up writing 21 nocturnes, and it was his versions that turned this clever musical idea into an absolute worldwide phenomenon. And this is the really crucial thing to get here, their relationship. You got Field, the pioneer. He gave us the elegant, simple blueprint. Then you have Chopin, the master. He took that form and just injected it with this incredible drama, this complexity, and a kind of emotional depth that nobody had ever heard before. It's simple, really. One established the style, and the other absolutely perfected it.
So, to really see what Chopin did, let's do a little deep dive. Let's put one of his most famous nocturnes right under the microscope. We are going to break down the anatomy of his nocturne in F minor, Opus 55, number 1.
You see, with Chopin, every single element is just dialed up to 11. The melody, it's not just song-like, it's intensely expressive, and he decorates it with these tiny sparkling runs and trills. The accompaniment, it's not just sitting there in the background, it's this steady rocking motion that creates this quiet tension simmering right under the surface. And the structure? Man, it tells a story. It starts out calm, then it erupts into this really passionate middle section, and then it finds its way back to that quiet, reflective mood. So the feeling isn't just dreamy. It's deeply, deeply melancholic and intense. It's like hearing a late-night confession whispered in the dark.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture here. How does a simple musical idea become a true icon? It's fascinating, right? Let's trace that legacy from one composer to the next.
This journey from a cool idea to a musical icon really happened in 4 clear steps. Step 1, John Field invents the Nocturne. Simple enough. Step 2, he establishes its core style, that singing melody over the flowing accompaniment. Step 3, a young Chopin hears this, he studies it, and he is just completely inspired. And finally, step 4, Chopin takes that inspiration and pushes the form to its absolute limits, adding his own signature emotional power and technical brilliance.
And look, if there's one sense to take away from this whole story, it's this. Field created the form, and Chopin perfected it. That's it. It's just a perfect example of how artistic innovation so often works, right? One person lays the foundation, and then someone else comes along and builds something truly magnificent right on top of it. Which kind of brings us to a final thought here. You know, this story of the Nocturne, it's not really just about piano music, is it? It's bigger than that. It's about creativity itself. And it really makes you wonder, what is the difference between a good idea and a truly great one? Is it just about being the first person to think of something, or is it about being the one who comes along and unlocks its absolute fullest potential? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.